slaves on an underground railroad know this. It was not only dangerous for Tice and other slaves, it was dangerous for the people who were housing them. You needed to be very careful. You had to hold things close to your chest. There was no, like, writing to the Lewis and Son, you know, and say, hey, I got a safe house here. No, because you had to keep it quiet. First of all, it was against the law. So you would know maybe that where your slaves were coming from, if you had a safe house, and you know where you were sending them to. Other than that, you knew very little. It had to be that way. So, where does Maine stand in this regard? Some would say that, a lot of people said that half of the Maine residents were in favor of slavery. And you gotta wonder why. You wonder why? We'll go through the reasons. Cotton, tobacco, and rice. Cotton, tobacco, and rice. Who harvested the cotton, tobacco, and the rice? Slaves in the South harvested it. What happened to what they harvested? They kept our textile mills running. Textile mills where? Lewiston, Auburn, Westbrook, all over the state. Kept the people employed. Meanwhile, you've heard of the triangular trade of rum and goods. The city of Portland was one of 3 points in the triangular trade. Slaves harvested the sugar cane in the Caribbean, and that sugar cane was sent up here, shipped up here, processed into granulated sugar or the liquid form molasses, and it was imported to these rum. We have 14 rum manufacturing facilities in Portland, running 7 days a week. It was like the rum capital of the world. And then there are some other like ancillary things you might not think of, like salted cod. Why is salted cod one of the reasons to want slavery? Well, salted cod, one economist wrote, in many ways, cod was the linchpin of slavery. It was the linchpin of slavery. Why? Because it was a cheap source of protein to feed the slaves and keep them healthy enough to do all the other things. Okay. And so all of these goods were shipped overseas. Textile industry was the greatest in the world at the time. And how were they shipped? On boats built by Mainers. It kept industries going here in the state of Maine. Why did half the people in the state of Maine want slavery? Because there were money in their pockets. So many of them, we're talking about the late 1840s, early 50s. The Anti-Slavery Society went into a slumber, and then this fine lady appeared. Harriet Beecher Stowe. So she and her husband Lyman come to Bowdoin, and he's teaching at Bowdoin. In 1852, she writes the book called Uncle Tom's Cabin. Does anybody know what the subtitle of Uncle Tom's Cabin was? It was written.
I know it one time, but I don't remember.
The Man That Was a Thing. The Man That Was a Thing. So this was published, serialized in National Era magazine from April 1851 to 1852. It was published then as a novel, and it quickly became sold an unprecedented 300,000 copies in 1 year. And it was translated into other languages. And on November 25th, 1862, Mrs. Stowe paid a visit to President Lincoln. President Lincoln said to her, so you're the young lady that started this great war. You're the little lady that started this great war. Of course, about 14 years later, an Ohio senator said, Uncle Tom's Cabin was a 100-pound bomb inspired by God fired at the damnable curse of slavery, and the explosion was heard around the world. So this book sold so many copies, it reignited the whole anti-slavery, abolition movement. And they started sprouting up all over the place here. These male anti-slavery societies, I don't see Auburn. Sure, I see Auburn. I don't see Lewiston. Oh, and female anti-slavery societies, there too. And if you look really close, you'll find that there are really interesting places. They're like in New Vineyard. East Buxton, not Buxton, East Buxton. East Emden, not Emden. East Madison, not Madison. But hey, but they were there, and the ladies were very influential. As a matter of fact, they raised quite a bit of money. They have fairs and raise money to help their cause. Incredibly, and it came to being part of the Underground Railroad, the homes and businesses where fugitives would rest and eat were called stations and depots, and they were run by station masters. Those money and goods who gave money and goods to the cause were called stockholders, and of course the person that took the slaves from one safe house to the next was called a conductor. But nationally the debate was often vicious, and malicious. While in Congress, the North and the South were split, several key issues remained that might have been settled in the boardroom. There's states' rights, things like that. But the one issue that could never be decided, never be settled without war, was slavery. And then it happened. It's a battle, little round top in Gettysburg. And the results were this. There were as many people died in the Civil War as World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam conflict. All of those. Friends killing friends. Schoolmates killing schoolmates. Now, in Maine, they say an estimated 9,400 Mainers died in the Civil War. A bit of shameless self-promotion for my book. Please come and buy it afterwards. Until then, we'll go on. I want to tell you about some of my favorite stories. And, you know, I could talk all night, so I had to cut it down to your 2 hours. Now, oh, hey, I have this cool. See, all these are escape routes. And someone with a steadier hand could say, okay, they came to Maine, they went all the way up western Maine. Or they came up to Portland, yeah. From there, they go up the coast, up here to Canada, Campobello, up the rivers, they go up the rivers. The Boston Post Road on the line there, all the way to Bangor. And I'll tell you about that last trip later on, but it's fascinating, and a lot of people were involved. Maybe the most famous, well, okay, most famous guy was Hannibal Hamlin. Now, Abraham Lincoln chose Mr. Hamlin, who was Paris, South Paris. He was a congressman. He was a senator.